Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Lara and I'm the Director of Basis Languages and Training. I know we are experiencing harsh times, but I also know there are extraordinary people out there who are trying to make the most of these difficult times. In this opportunity, and thanks to the amazing human team at English Teachers in Peru, I will be offering a webinar next Friday, August the 28th. And in this webinar, we'll be able to talk about the importance of our role as teachers in this context of having to teach to our students online. We'll also talk about the importance of certifying our English level by taking international examinations. Want to know more about these two interesting topics? Join us next Friday, August the 28th. See you there.
Hola, mi nombre es Yako Higashi. Soy de Lima, Perú, pero vivo en Guayaquil, Ecuador hace algunos años. Soy maestro, capacitador de docentes y empresario. Durante mucho tiempo he comprendido que para ser maestro se requiere mucho más que tener conocimiento de la materia o habilidades metodológicas. ¿De qué sirve haber estudiado tanto si no sabemos liderar un aula? ¿De qué sirve alcanzar puestos de liderazgo si no sabemos cómo tratar con personas? ¿De qué sirve estar actualizado con lo último en tendencias educativas si no sabemos aplicarlas sabiamente en nuestros estudiantes? La enseñanza tiene poder. Sin embargo, para que este poder pueda tener un impacto positivo o negativo en la vida de los estudiantes, debemos saber cómo manejarlas. Este taller tiene como objetivo reinventar al docente como un héroe para los alumnos y aprovechar el poder influido por él mismo para lograr propósitos académicos en el corto, mediano y largo plazo. Repasaremos en detalle cada tipo de poder que el profesor maneja dentro del aula e intentaremos redirigir nuestra metodología al uso adecuado de esta habilidad. Gracias a Mariela Condorena y a todos los docentes de Perú por la invitación. Será un placer compartir con ustedes. Nos vemos el sábado 29 a las 6 de la tarde por el canal de English Teachers in Peru de Facebook. Hasta pronto. Chao, chao.
Good afternoon, dear teachers. I'm teacher Kevin Laura. How are you today? We hope you're fine. Thanks for being here with us. A special greeting to all teachers from Tacna. Happy day. Welcome. Welcome to our 7th webinar. Welcome to our 7th webinar. it's really important to mention the instructions that we have to follow in this session. Please do not forget type your questions in the comment section together with your name and place of living. It's really important that please. And also the answers to your questions and comments will be replied by our guest speaker at the end of the webinar in the question time session. Okay. And do not forget something really important. When finishing the webinar, we will share a link for you to have access to the exit ticket. And this is really important to mention. Will be available for 45 minutes. Do not forget and pay attention. Thank you so much. So now let me introduce to you to Miss Angela. Miss Angela, are you here?
Yes, good evening, Kevin, and good evening to all
Good
our
evening.
colleagues. Welcome to this new edition of our series of webinars. And
Yes.
tonight, we're happy and pleased to present Miss Alicia Lara Espinosa, who is a passionate teacher, entrepreneur, and an educator for the past 21 years. She first graduated with a degree in business management, then she furthered her studies with an education and EFL and ESL instruction degree. She is a Cambridge certified trainer holding 12 international certifications, the TKT Core, the TKT Young Learners, Train the Trainer, TOEFL, TOEIC, among others. She worked as a teacher for the most important centers in Peru. She worked also in bilingual schools, well-known universities. Alicia has also been consultant for prestigious private schools, language trainers, institutions, and internationally popular publishers and bookstores. Currently, she is a general director of Basis Languages and Training. Welcome, Miss Alicia, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having invited me to become part of this interesting, useful, and helpful series of webinars amazingly organized by the human team that you represent at English Teachers in Peru. Thanks so much for the kind invitation. Shall I start? Yeah, I think so.
Yes, Miss, please.
Okay. Give me a minute, please, to share my screen. Mm, 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 mm. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now it's working. Thanks so much for your patience. And definitely, I will be asking you to be patient, please. I'd like to start this webinar telling you personal experience I've been struggling with these past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, my laptop crashed down. It simply won't work anymore. It passed away. And trust me, in the context that we are living these days, about having to count on a computer and internet the 150% of the time, because thank God we could migrate our work, and these days we are able to work online. Without the laptop, I was definitely crazy. That the idea is trying to share information with different other passionate colleagues. And here we are. And I'm happy to be here. As I was saying at the very beginning, thanks so much, Mariela, for having invited me to become part of this first series of webinars that I am completely sure it will not be the last series of webinars you will be offering. The title of my presentation is Making the Most of COVID-19 Times, the Importance of CPD. And in fact, we'll have two very different moments along this webinar. First of all, to the ones who are joining us, welcome. One more time, welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome Doris, Rosemary, Elizabeth, Gisela. I can see some former trainees and former students here. Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday evening. Um, Here it is. Oops, what happened? This is a laptop I borrowed, so that is why I was saying, please be patient. Okay. Yeah, okay. Here's the title of the session. And as you already know, it is titled Making the Most of COVID-19 Times. And we'll also be talking about the importance of CPD. And probably this acronym will be known by many of you, but it may also be new for some others. We'll be talking about continuous professional development too. First thing, I would like this webinar to be as interactive as possible. I am reading your comments here on Facebook. Trust me, I am reading your comments. I am reading your hellos and the rest of messages you are dropping there. So you can type your answers there through the Facebook streaming, and I will be reading them. The very first question that I would like to ask you is about the picture that you have in front of you. You have this yellow background. And what can you say about this picture? What can you see, or what does it mean to you? Use your own words and type your answers, please, in the Facebook streaming. Let's see. Yeah, Max Alberto says that for him, this means we can. Maylin Gonzalez says that for her, this picture represents our strengths. Some other teachers say that this means to be a strong, empowered women, empowering. Yes. And the most of comments are mentioning the adjective strong or the noun strength. Yes. Thanks so much. Basically, the comments are quite similar. When I wanted to look for this kind of picture, sorry, I couldn't find one without the nails, wearing some nail polish. So definitely these are women. However, that fist or those fists represent something that maybe some people would consider a symbol for rebel people or aggressive aggression, but it's not. Along history, whenever we human beings have fought for our rights, we have definitely shown our fists up, trying to say, as some colleagues were mentioning here, that we can do it, that we are strong people, and that we can basically survive in this world. I'm not going to read the information about myself. I was already introduced in a very nice way, but it's nice for you to look at my photograph, obviously wearing, well, something more colorful. And in fact, information about titles and degrees and certificates is just information. As Jaco was mentioning in part of his video, there is no reason, and it is not worth having such an amount of documents or certifications or titles if we are not able to do our job well. And that will be part of my presentation in this webinar. First of all, I'd like you to pay attention to every single detail in this first part. Give me a minute. I think there is a message here. Yeah, don't worry. It's like this. The very first pictures and their backgrounds were showing colored yellow. However, this first part that is not presenting any picture or image yet is gray. And I chose this also as to mention the importance of the materials, the importance of the slides that we use with our students. Something as simple as showing the appropriate materials or the appropriate slides may fully motivate our students. We can, let's say, play with emotions. I am trying to work hard on this about developing and improving our human skills. And I think that the context we're living and experiencing this year is quite the perfect moment to continue doing so. Because now we change to a slide that is apparently blank, but showing the color gray. And this is the first picture that then which is linked to this first, or sorry, to this slide. I will keep on asking you to be patient, please. This is a borrowed laptop and I am not so used to using it. This is the first picture that you can see then. Gray background, Asian group of people. And something that I was thinking about while preparing this presentation was that, well, first of all, I'm a 42-year-old woman. I know that there are many young teachers here and some others that probably are my generation. But the point is that I don't know if you remember having seen years ago that Asian people or people in China specifically were wearing these face masks, but it was not because of any virus. Back in time, those days where they were wearing these face masks because of pollution. The air was so contaminated there in China that they preferred to wear face masks in order to not breathe that polluted air. I remember myself some years ago looking at those people, watching the news and saying, oh my gosh, that must be very sad to be wearing those masks when you have to go outside. These days, or I mean, back in time, those days, I would have never imagined that we would have been wearing the same face masks because of a virus. The situation is that even when they were wearing these face masks, they continued being in large groups of people. You know, China is the most populated country around the world. But these days, there is something else happening, and it is this. Usually, when I am talking with my close friends, we tend to say that we Peruvian people, are suffering because of this social distancing situation. Because Peruvian people are very affectionate. We like kissing our friends when we are just greeting them. Remember, or in case you don't know, in Europe, in some parts of Europe, sorry, people do not greet each other with a kiss. I have some English friends, and when they are here, or when they were here in Peru, some of my friends got quite shocked because they wanted to greet them, giving them a kiss, and they were like, so these days we have to experience that situation of not being so affectionate. Even when some creative companies have designed colorful and funny masks, but anyway, we cannot be in large groups. We cannot have get-togethers with our relatives. We cannot have get-togethers with our colleagues. And we don't know when will this finish for sure. However, the only thing we have to take into account is that as teachers and educators, we are the ones who should be empowering each other in order to continue making the most of these difficult or harsh times. Um, there is another question for you. This first question says, how did you feel when the news mentioned the pandemic, when the government said that we could not go out, that we were to be locked down, that we were going to be in quarantine because of the COVID-19 virus? Remember your days back in March and try to say how you felt. I will be reading your answers through Facebook. How did you feel? Lucy says she felt stressed. Another teacher says she felt anxious. Someone else says, which? Terrified. Oh, Carla says she felt sad. And definitely, these were the type of feelings we all started feeling. Maybe at the very beginning, we were curious about the situation. We didn't know about it. It was a new virus. We only knew that many people were dying because of it. But we didn't know that much about the virus or the symptoms and the illness itself. At some point, when the government said, okay, quarantine time, we obviously started feeling worried about it. What will happen with our work? What will happen with our businesses? What will happen with our daily lifestyle? Some people started also feeling upset, annoyed, disgusted, and some other people even started feeling stressed and depressed. Remember, many businesses have gone bankrupt these days. So if we as teachers can count on a job these days, we must thank God and we must be thankful in general about having the possibility to continue working. I perfectly know about the difficulties that we will be talking about in a while, but we still can continue um, doing our job. In the context of the new world where people were wearing face masks, what happened? The economy obviously went down. Many people lost their jobs. But something that I normally like to mention about Peruvian people is that we are very creative. We are very imaginative. And thanks to this creativity, some people started designing different colorful masks and masks with different designs in order to make the boring or the stressing situation of having to wear one of those a bit more, a bit better. Thank you. It's my mom bringing me a cup of coffee. That is one of the advantages of working at home. And if we felt, as you were mentioning, worried, sad, depressed, and so on, imagine how our children must have felt. In this case, there's this picture of a baby looking at his teddy bear, and the teddy bear is wearing a face mask. But it is not only happening, or it didn't only happen to children, it also happened to teenagers. And my point is that if we as adults felt stressed and worried, imagine the situation that our children and teenagers as students were experiencing. Definitely, the COVID-19 came to change our lives, and it was not because of a good reason. It depends on each one of us to try to make things better, to try to take the positive side of this and make our world improve and become a better place. Uh, which, yeah. Now let's go back to a bright color because the information is as bright as the color it is representing. In all this context of having to be at home, we as teachers became the super teachers or the superheroes. And I definitely feel proud of the many colleagues and trainees and students that I have seen working from their homes, decorating their stations, workstations, or decorating a special space in order to record their videos, making special materials in order to make their classes more meaningful and attractive and dynamic for their students. And something that sadly happens to all of us is this about the internet connectivity. It does not only happen in Lima, it happens all around Peru. So if we need, as I was mentioning, a computer, an internet, counting on internet services that are not good is definitely bad for us. I don't know if you remember, but at the very beginning of this pandemic and quarantine time, the probably 2 first weeks were terrible in terms of internet services. Um, Zoom didn't work well, the mails didn't work well, internet in general was terrible. But even in that context, my dear colleagues as super teachers started changing things in order to become, not to become, in order to create a better situation for their students. In that context of empowerment, we could say then that the definition to this word says that it is about giving someone the authority or power to do something or making someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So, if we read these definitions, we could say that definitely teachers started becoming empowered. They started creating very nice video lessons. They started recording very dynamic videos. They started creating very interesting materials. And all that happened taking part of their family time. Working in a classroom involves the teacher to go to school, which um, do their job, and then go back home. Probably there were some meetings with parents, of course. There were some meetings with colleagues, yes. But these days, in the context we're experiencing, I know because some of my trainees tell me that they have to telephone every single parent and they have to talk to every single mommy who is asking different questions. And definitely it takes much more time than the usual regular time they have to spend at school. Probably this will happen until things get better. And if we are talking about empowerment or the empowerment that we are trying to look for as teachers, there are some characteristics that we can mention. For example, the first one saying, which Click. Teachers try to decide if they will be different than the norm or the expectation. Teachers clearly define what they believe great teaching is. Teachers are proactive in their personal and professional development. Teachers focus and devote time and attention to specific goals and objectives, and most importantly, share with their colleagues. On the other hand, On the other hand, leaders who seek to empower teachers clearly define their vision, establish procedures for exploring problems, provide resources for professional and personal development, model, support, and promote time spent in activities outside of school, and encourage teachers to seek professional partnerships and relationships beyond their building. This webinar that is happening right now is part of that last item that was mentioned. In the past, some colleagues used to complain saying that there are not enough opportunities for teachers who are not living in the capital city. These days, thanks to this about the internet, teachers from different parts in our beloved country, as well as in different other countries, could be watching this webinar, could be joining different webinars. And it has happened along the year because, for example, IATEFL, based in England, offered their annual conference online. TESOL Spain, TESOL Spain also offered the conference via YouTube. Then there was another one given by Brass TESOL, and normally these conferences have a certain fee. It meant this year that we didn't have to spend neither in tickets nor in the fee, and we were able to attend those different conferences. And there are different workshops, seminars, webinars that will continue happening until the end of the year. Question for you then. When do you feel empowered? I will be reading your questions in the Facebook streaming. When do you feel empowered? If we're saying that this is the perfect moment for teachers to feel empowered, for us to empower our colleagues, when do you feel empowered? Type your answers in the Facebook streaming, and I will be reading them. When do you feel empowered? Ideas? No, it is another type of comment, not an answer. When do you feel empowered, dear colleagues? Because we read two different definitions about what the word empower means. So when do you feel empowered? Edith says, I feel empowered when I get tools to manage my class. Excellent. Which Jane says, I feel empowered. I missed them, but well, it's a different type of question. It's a comment in general. She says she misses her students, but she's trying to make the most of these online classes. Nafti says, I feel empowered when no matter how difficult it was or how hard I tried, I can finally see my students' improvement. Isabel says, when I create my own original materials, and that is something that is happening more frequently these days. I feel empowered, Cesar says, I feel empowered when somebody helps us to do something new. Mhm. Gabriela says, I feel empowered when I know I can share something new as regards technology. Well, um, Margarita says, I feel empowered when I teach. I would say something similar. I feel empowered when my students listen to my suggestions, when I support other teacher, when a class goes well, when a class goes as I planned it, when I can do things well. And there are many other interesting answers about feeling empowered. The thing is that I usually mention this about the general example of people saying, what's your son or daughter studying? Oh, she's studying medicine. Oh, she'll be a doctor. He's studying law. Oh, he'll be a lawyer. He's studying education. Ah, a teacher. So sadly, in our country, it still happens that people is not recognize or well, people's not recognizing yet the real value of teachers. In my personal opinion, this year and this context is making parents aware of the importance of teachers. I'm not only talking about language teachers, I'm talking about teachers in general. Because as I usually say to some other colleagues, we do not only teach, we do not only mention information that we want our students to repeat as if they were parrots. Basically, we educate them. If they enter, we say or we greet them, hello, good morning, how are you? So that is part of education. That is part of life, in fact. And I think that this is the perfect moment for people in general, or I mean, for teachers in general, to feel empowered. And if you see that someone is not feeling well or someone starts feeling down, because I perfectly know I myself have felt down along this quarantine and along these times that are difficult. You cannot imagine the single power that a word like have a very nice day, your worksheets are, I don't know, lovely, um, your video was awesome, and different phrases like this ones empower our colleagues. And I will insist on saying that these difficult times that we are experiencing these days are, from my viewpoint, the perfect opportunity to make people in general aware of the importance of teachers in the world. I think this is the perfect opportunity for Peruvian teachers to become empowered, to empower colleagues in general. You must have watched in the news that, for example, there were people who were quite senior and they didn't know that much about technology. However, since they had to immediately migrate to teaching online, they have to learn in a hurry, and these days they are teaching their classes online. So this about the education online or remote education was going to happen in a massive way in a future that was not so distant. And what this pandemic did was only to make things happen now. Let's see. Thanks for your very nice answers. After the webinar, I will read all of them. Yep. Okay. There is something else that I would like to mention in this first part. Sorry, again this. That is linked to our human skills. There are different types of skills we must possess and we have to develop, and there are different concepts. But this about the flips as skills say that they pertain to someone's personal life, but they also bleed into professional settings. And this is something that I am focusing on, especially these days. We're talking about flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. We're basically talking about soft skills. I know, this one. Soft skills, as I was mentioning. We are not talking about the hard skills that are the ones that we get by going to school, by going to university, by studying, etc. We're talking about this type of skills that are more personal. There are two groups of people when talking about soft skills. Some people say that we as humans are that these skills are inborn, that we are born with this type of skills: leadership, social skills, being able to work in teams, and so on. But there is another group of people who say that it is possible to learn how to develop these skills. I belong to that second group. Of course, there are people who are naturally born with this type of skills that are called the soft skills, but there is another group of people who can learn and develop these skills too. Now, have a look at this chart. Whenever we research about 21st century skills, uh, the majority of books or articles or magazines mention that we teachers are teaching the students who will be the future workers, the students that will become the future employees of certain companies. And it is true. That's okay. They will have to work at some point of their lives. However, we should also take into account that there are different types of jobs these days. Probably 10 years ago, saying that being an influencer was a job would have been considered quite a crazy idea. These days, you must have heard about many influencers or many YouTubers around, and these are jobs. And in some cases, they are very profitable jobs. So these are different types of jobs that are no good, no bad, no better, no worse than the traditional jobs like doctors, nurses, teachers, and so on. But we should be aware of all these generations that we are teaching to. Instead of saying that we are teaching to people who will have to be employable, I normally prefer to say that we are teaching people who will be the global citizens. We are raising human beings. We are educating human beings. Of course, they will have to work at some point of their lives, but there are different types of jobs these days. And to all those different types of jobs, guess who are the ones to teach? Teachers. This is, and I will insist, the perfect moment for feeling empowered. This is the perfect moment for empowering colleagues. This is the perfect moment for to stop saying, "Oh no, teachers in Peru are not well considered." Okay, this is the right moment to make people aware of the importance of teachers, not only here, but around the globe. Um, as I was mentioning, I think that we should focus on human skills. And speaking about this, and going back to initial moment in this webinar, I I think and I said that we can at some point, let's say, play with the emotions. If we show a picture that represents a sad situation, or if we show colors that are probably dark, the person in front of us will understand that idea. If we show bright colors, if we show nice cartoon characters, the person will also understand that idea. And speaking about our human skills, Give me a minute. I will have to stop here to show you something. Hmm. This is, give me a minute, please. Okay, now I will stop sharing the screen for a while. Give me a minute, please. I want you to see something that I am completely sure you will like. I will insist on saying that this is our moment. This is the perfect time to become empowered. I would like you to listen to this song. It lasts, or well, it is about 4 minutes, but we'll listen to approximately 2 minutes and something. You can read the lyrics, okay? You can take notes about the lyrics. I am sending Miss Mariela the link, so don't worry about it. If not, you can find it also on YouTube. I found this song some years ago as I was looking for a motivational song to a group of teachers. And I want you to listen to the lyrics and pay attention to them this time. Volume. Pay attention to the lyrics and you will be able to see the many valuable things that you do every single day.
I'm feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. This class is all mine, gonna open up the minds. I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a real good teacher. Yeah, I'm feeling good today. Sporting backpacks and they're on their way, yo. Kind of little things we like. Going to my class, everything's alright, oh. No one is smart as you, no one is cool as you. No, whatever grade level or type of school that my class is gonna rule, yeah. Now I got my class together, I got my lesson plans together, yeah. You know I got my act together. I'm shaping students that'll shape forever. The greatest changes in the world will almost always start at schools. And you know my mom and daddy didn't raise no fool. I can change the world for better, I can change the world for worse. So I choose to be a teacher and a blessing, not a curse. Singing this song to open up their eyes, jumping in my ride, gotta get there on time. I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a real good teacher. Feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. This class is all mine, gonna open up the lines. I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a teacher, I'm a real good teacher. I run my class like I know I should. I'm making young stars like I'm Hollywood. I thought you understood. I'm the difference in my class for the greater good, yeah. In my class to spread the wings. That school makes me wanna sing, oh yeah, 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 yeah. We can change the world together.
We can
Teachers, we
change
can
the
make
world.
it better. Yeah, it feels like it's been cold forever. I think it's time we change the weather. We can, we will, we must succeed. Children are the future, and the future's gaining speed. If you're gonna grow the plant, then you gotta plant the seed. And if you're gonna reach a child, it starts by giving them what they need. I'm singing this song to open up their eyes and jump in.
I hope you like the song. Let's see. Now let's go back to this. Where's my window? Yeah, here. I hope you enjoyed the song. And if you paid attention to the lyrics, these are all the many things we do every single day. Starting by the lesson plans, and then they mention different things that we do day after day. In case someone is saying that teachers don't do that much, especially kindergarten or primary school teachers, they are completely wrong. This is a list of the many valuable things we do every single day. And I will repeat it one more time. This is the perfect time, my dear colleagues, to feel empowered, and empower the rest of our colleagues. This is the moment for making people aware of the importance of our role as teachers. Going back to the presentation, give me a minute. Okay. Now I want you only to listen to something. I want you to listen to different songs or different melodies. If you recognize the melody, you are allowed to sing, you are allowed to dance, to stand up and dance if you prefer. You are allowed to, I don't know, smile. You are allowed to think of a special person or just do whatever you feel like doing, okay? Listen to this. Give me a minute. Which? No, I'm not sharing. Okay, first one. Listen to this one, okay? I'm sure many of you will recognize the song or the melody. Yes. Someone in the Facebook chat is saying up. Yes. This, let's show you, is the soundtrack, or this was the soundtrack for the Up movie. Lovely movie. I think it was shown 10 years ago, if I'm not wrong. Yes, it was released in 2010. Another song. Na, 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 na. Another song. My idea is that you recognize different feelings that you feel in a certain way. Listen to this one. It's a classic. I am sure that many of you will also recognize this melody. Yes. And the winner is Miss Ursula Cruz, who recognized this melody that belongs to the movie titled Halloween. It is a horror movie that was released in the 80s, one of my favorite horror movies. It was not so scary. These days I can watch it and smile, but back in time it was really scary. Another song. You're right. This is the Rocky soundtrack. Exactly. Rocky, the boxer. One more song. Let's see who recognizes the following song. Ready, set, go. Anyone recognize that intro? Anyone? Let's see in the chat. Disney, yes, this is the Disney intro. Excellent. Some of you recognize that this was the Disney intro. My point while using these different songs was the following, my dear teachers, my dear colleagues. Something as simple as using background music, something as simple as using a certain cartoon character, as using different color slides or different papers is a very powerful tool to try to engage our students in our classes. And having said this, why not also using our melodies or our own music? People from a certain part in the Highlands will recognize this song easily. Perlas Chayay, Peruvian music. Of course, if you are teaching in a certain place, your students will be able to recognize it. Why not also making our students feeling proud of ourselves? Trust me, when you are abroad and you listen to this kind of music, you feel more Peruvian than ever. And why not? It's not about music only from the Highlands. Let's now listen to this other very popular song that will make students from de nuestro rico oriente del Perú. Younger teachers, I suppose, are saying that this belongs to Bareto. Well, many generations knew about this type of music thanks to that group that was called Bareto. But in fact, originally, this belongs to Los Mirlos. If there are different teachers here from the jungle, you definitely know about Los Mirlos. Why not also using our type of music in order to make our students stick and continue feeling proud of ourselves? The point is that through music or through slides, through colors, we can make our students engage with our classes. I was reading some of the comments in the Facebook chat, and some teachers were saying, everything looks nice, everything is apparently perfect, but there is one thing: my students don't have computers. That is true. I also know about that situation. It is very sad that there are still differences among different parts of our country in the case of colleague teachers and also on the side of our students. However, it is always good to know, it is better to be informed. If it is possible, I will try to look for this photograph. I didn't think about it earlier, but maybe you have heard about an African teacher who taught his students about a computer screen, and he taught them just by drawing the pictures, just by drawing each one of the icons on his board. It was not officially a board. It was a wall that they had painted in black. And this teacher taught his students how a word screen looks like. And I think it was, I don't remember well, but I think it was a British company, or I don't remember if it was the government or a company, but it was British. When they saw this photograph, they gave computers to the students. And when the teacher wanted to see if the students had really learned about that, they were able to recognize the different icons for the word. Cada una de las ventanitas. En esta copio, en esta tipeo, en esta hago tal cosa. So I perfectly understand that the reality and the situation in our beloved country is still difficult. Trust me, I do know and I understand that it is not about teaching our students to dream about something. It is about teaching them about the real world, because we never know when will they be living in the future. To continue, let's go back to the presentation. Give me a minute. And now we should be moving to the second part of this presentation. In this first part, the main intention was to make you aware of the importance of soft skills, especially from my point of view, focusing on human skills. Now, in this second part, I would like you to know a bit more about something that is very important. I have to mention that I do not work for Cambridge, nor for Anglia, or for Trinity, at least yet. They are not paying me to promote this or that type of international examination. It is just that when we were talking with Miss Mariela, who is one of the organizers of these webinars, we noticed that last year, when the Ministry of Education started asking you colleagues to present your international certificates, many teachers realized that it was important to have one of those international examinations. But let's say it was something new for many colleagues. And before mentioning something about the different examinations that exist out there, at least I'm going to focus on 3 different companies that offer them. Let's see. There are 5 acronyms on the screen. Without Googling, as I normally say to my students, do not Google right now. If you remember, excellent. If you don't remember or don't know, don't worry. Then we'll mention what each one of these letters stand for. Number 1, CEFR. Number 2, TKT. Number 3, B2. Number 4, YL. Number 5, C2. If you know what these acronyms mean, type it in the Facebook chat, please. So you may write, number 1 is this, without Googling. I am watching you. Almost perfect, Yvonne. Almost. There's only one word that was different. Yes. In the case of number 1, I'm getting the answers. Number 1 stands for, oops, what happened? No, not yet. Yeah. Number 1 stands for Common European Framework of Reference, or el Marco Común de Referencia Europeo in Spanish. The Common European Framework of Reference is the one that standardizes the different English levels around the globe. They say that English levels start from a certain one and go up to the highest one that should be the C2 level. Common European, yes, I am reading some of the answers. C2, which appears here in number 5, is the highest level that you can certify. It basically says that you are almost like a native speaker, that your English level is excellent. The C2 level, remember that C2 is the highest level that you can reach, English level. Then we have the TKT that has become very popular lately, standing for the Teaching Knowledge Test, one of Cambridge's examinations. Then we have the B2, that is a lower level in terms of the Common European Framework. Remember that the highest one is the C2 level. And YL stands for Young Learners. The thing is that, happily, I noticed that many teachers were able to answer this question. However, what happened last year or a couple of years ago, I think it was last year, when the Ministry of Education said, okay, teachers, tienen que tener por lo menos un examen que certifique su nivel de inglés. Many colleagues started Googling, and some colleagues discovered the IELTS or IELTS. And then the secretary of the company I represent and I myself started getting inboxes, emails, and phone calls saying, queremos prepararnos para el IELTS. And the first thing that we normally ask is, okay, are you traveling to Canada, Australia, or some parts in the US? And they say, no, somos profesores de X sector y necesitamos certificar el nivel. But the IELTS is an examination that you should only get if you are to travel to Canada, Australia, or certain parts in the US. If you are not going to travel for work or study to one of the places I have just mentioned, it's not necessary to get it. I don't have the IELTS because I have not been there studying nor working. And then we realized that information is out there on internet. However, many teachers only looked for exámenes internacionales. Existe este y este. And in their desperation, they just wanted to get ready and prepare or trained for taking those examinations without knowing that much about which one was really necessary, which one was worth taking, which one was okay for working here in Peru, and so on. So the idea of mentioning this information about international examinations does not go exclusively about Cambridge's. Give me a minute and I will show you, again, some information about the 3 options that I chose for today's webinar. Yeah. First of all, yeah, you see, I knew there were going to be people asking for the FCE. Hace muchísimos años dejó de llamarse FCE. And I insist on that. Now you will be able to see it. Click, let's share the screen. Something that also happened in the context that we are experiencing these days is that there were lots of new businesses because many entrepreneurs opened them, and it's okay. However, we have to be aware of where to trust our studies and confidence in. If I saw, for example, someone advertising directly FCE, I would think, este profesor probablemente está un poco desfasado, porque hace mucho tiempo dejó de llamarse FCE. Se usa las siglas como segunda mención, porque hay muchas personas en el mundo que se quedaron con ese chip del FCE, pero el nombre ha cambiado 2 veces ya, más de eso. If you have a look, for example, to the official Cambridge Assessment English website, this is the official page, and you go to this space that says exams and tests, you will have a list. You will be able to see the list of different examinations, international examinations that they offer. They start from the pre-A1 starters level, that is for young learners, to the movers, then they go to the flyers, that is usually for primary levels. Then they go to the KET, that is now called Key for Schools, or Key, in fact. The preliminary, B1 preliminary for schools, a special version. The B2 first for schools, in parentheses, you will see the FCE. You have the A2 key, the B1 preliminary. Okay, let's go a bit further because you are already students or teachers, so we're going to the B2 first, FCE. Then we go to the C1 advanced or CAE. And remember, C2 is the highest level you can reach. C2, according to the Common European Framework. That is the C2 proficiency, formerly known as CPE. Then we have some other international examinations that are for specific purposes. Business, then they also have special ones for companies, but we're focusing on the ones that teachers can take. So here, let's focus on the B2 first. I will click in here, B2 first, click. And you will be able to read it along with me. What is the name of the exam? FCE? No. B2 first. Formerly known as Cambridge English first. Y mucho más antiguamente, FCE. So, pay attention to, in the case of us that are teachers, pay attention to the way you're calling examinations. It is not bad, it is not terribly bad to say FCE because many people around are learning about international examinations. And probably when they started Googling, they got information about the FCE. The FCE that then became the Cambridge English First, that is currently called the B2 First, also changed its format. So, si están buscando información y en internet encuentran algo que dice FCE, hay partes que van a ser diferentes y por lo tanto el material que consigan no va a ser el del formato real del examen actual. Una de las partes que notariamente cambió fue la de speaking. Las de reading and use of English se unieron, cambiaron en tiempos y en número de preguntas, pero en speaking sí cambiaron algunos aspectos. Entonces, it is important to know, as teachers, how to call international examinations. So, If I am, for example, in the case of my company, and if I were promoting the preparation course or something as only prepárate para el FCE, estoy utilizando terminología antigua. Por temas de masividad, puedo decir, quiero prepararme, quiero estudiar para el B2 First y entre paréntesis ponerle FCE para que sea más masivo a todas las personas que de repente no sabían que se había cambiado el nombre. But this is important. The name has changed. Now it is B2 First. So you should get ready for the B2 First. In the case of Cambridge examination, something that students and trainees normally mention is that they consider it difficult in terms of the listening part because of the British accent. Remember that this information about the accents is not the most important thing. Maybe there are a lot of people around there speaking like this that is not naturally my accent. Well, I lived in the States and that's when I probably got the native like, but it is not native. I am not a native. However, the accuracy and the information is good. So there's nothing really, nothing extremely important about having the accent or not. If you have the skills to imitate certain sounds in the American, that is the place where I was, or if you have, let's try to, it's not my accent, but let's try to. If you prefer to have a British-like accent, continue improving continue practicing and doing your very best. Not that much, but well. British accent's not my stuff, but it depends on you. If you have the skills to imitate and reproduce certain sounds, it's good for you, but it's not obligatory. What is important is to pronounce words well and to use accurately the words in your speeches. That's it. This is the most important thing. If you consider the listenings in the Cambridge examinations are very difficult to be understood, continue practicing, read tape scripts in order to be able to read the information and understand and notice the differences in pronunciation, because if you are like me and you say this is a bottle of water and then in the audio you listen this is a bottle of water, okay, you will be able to notice this by reading the script. But the important thing is that you understand the audio or that you understand the person, the speaker. So the accent is not the most important thing. If you can imitate and reproduce that sound, excellent, claps for you. But it's not mandatory. The most important thing is to pronounce well words and obviously to use our vocabulary accurately. That's it. Then, this was in the case of Cambridge examinations. These days, these are the most popular. When I was at school back in the 90s, the most popular in examination, and everyone talked about the TOEFL, TOEFL, TOEFL. So in the 90s, I would say that the TOEFL was the most important, or not the most important, the most well-known international examination around. Somewhere in the late 90s and now 2000s, I think. I don't know if it was marketing or what, but the thing is that people at Cambridge did very well. And these days, the most of teachers should have at least the B2 first or the FCE. When I took it, it was just yet the FCE. Then, what I normally say to other colleagues is, you can take one of the Cambridge's international examinations and then you can go for another option. There are different other alternatives. Cambridge examinations have a certain price, and there are other options that maybe you would prefer to go for. It depends on you. It is not about taking or choosing an international examination because someone says, if you take this exam, you will not fail. Anyway, you will get a certificate. It's not about that. It's about trying to reach a certain level and trying to certify it. Apart from Cambridge examinations, let's stop with this one and let's move to another one. We have these other examinations that are also popular and that here in Peru, for example, are promoted by a company where some very good friends work at. Anglia Examinations. Aquí en Lima, y no sé si estarán por allí viéndome de repente, Walter Ramírez, Sorca Muñoz. Los exámenes de Anglia son promovidos por el instituto llamado English Connections y soportados, se me fue la palabra, respaldados aquí por LPP, en Perú, me refiero, ¿no? Ellos son quienes promueven los exámenes de Anglia. Anglia examinations also certify the B1 level, the B2 level. Now, what I remember from my friends is that they usually have, I think, they have like a diagnostic test in order to recommend you to take the exam that will certify your B1 or your B2 level. This is what I know. So, as I mentioned, yo no trabajo con ellos, pero los conozco. Aquí en Perú, los exámenes de Anglia los promueve el Instituto English Connections y están respaldados, tanto como English Connections, por LPB o la Librería Peruano-Británica. They offer preparation courses too. They also have certain prices. I think the prices are a bit lower than Cambridge examinations, but it depends on you and making your decision to take this type of examinations or Cambridge international examinations. These examinations certify 4 different skills. Cambridge and English certify speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Last but not least, for example, I could also show you information about another international examination. The difference is that in this case, the ELASH exam certifies 3 different skills. The information on this website is in Spanish porque College Board, que es quien los promueve o los facilita, apunta a que latinoamericanos certifiquen su nivel de inglés. Having said that, here they mention, ¿qué es el ELASH? El ELASH es un examen de evaluación creado especialmente para medir el dominio del inglés de la población de habla hispana, como les decía. Estas son las 3 habilidades que el ELASH certifica. Comprensión auditiva, listening, uso correcto de la lengua y redacción indirecta, writing, y competencias de lectura y vocabulario, reading and vocabulary. En este caso no hay speaking. Ese fue otro punto, por ejemplo, que algunos colegas conversábamos el año pasado, cuando el ministerio empezó a pedir que para aplicar a ciertas becas y oportunidades, los colegas debían presentar certificados. También vino esto de que se pedía que tengan certificadas 4 skills. En ese caso, por ejemplo, por más que el ELASH es un examen internacional, certifica, como ustedes pueden ver aquí, 3 skills, no 4. No hay interview. Aún así, no es que el examen sea tanto más sencillo. Todos los exámenes que estamos viendo ahorita o las partes de los exámenes que estamos mostrando, por ejemplo, lo del B2 First, mencionan esto, nivel B1, nivel B2. No hemos entrado a lo de niños, porque acá todos son teachers, colegas, pero estamos hablando de los niveles que podrían serle útiles a ustedes, ¿no? Ahora, sabemos que debido a las distintas realidades y las distintas formas de estudio y las distintas formas en que se ha aprendido el inglés en nuestro país, los niveles también varían mucho. Así, por ejemplo, el año pasado, no, estamos 18. El 2017 hubo un grupo de profesores que ya tenían más de 8, entre 8 a 12 años como docentes y tomaron el examen para certificar el nivel A2. El nivel A, según el Common European Framework o el Marco Común Europeo de Referencia, viene a ser el equivalente a todo un nivel básico. Básico menor, upper basic si quieren, o si lo ponemos como en un instituto tradicional, 12 ciclos de un nivel básico, un año de estudios aproximadamente, si lo quieren ver así. Entonces, la información en cuanto a exámenes no depende simplemente de que diga que es un examen internacional, sino de que efectivamente veamos para qué voy a tomar y qué voy a certificar con ese examen que voy a rendir. Estos son exámenes de nivel. Okay, they certify your levels. B1, B2, C1, C2. The highest level, C2. But apart from certifying your level, you can also certify, for example, is the TKT over here? Wait. General higher, oops. No, it should be in the teaching English. Yeah. We can also certify our methodology and our experience. In that case, we are not only talking about the B1, B2, C1, C2, but then we are talking about different courses and documents like the CELTA, Delta, the teaching knowledge test that some of you were mentioning in the chat when I asked the letters and what do they stand for, teaching knowledge test, the TKT that has 3 different modules, module 1, 2, and 3. The modules or each one of the modules certify different specific skills of a teacher. And then, I don't know if they are here, no. But then they also created the TKT CLIL for content and language integrated learning. And also the TKT Young Learners. That is specifically for certifying your strategies and methodology as a teacher of young learner courses. They also have different types of courses that will give you a certificate in the end that are like, for example, the CELT-P or the CELT-S. And we have different other international examinations. There are international examinations that certify your vocabulary or your legal vocabulary, legal English vocabulary, business English vocabulary, and so on. We could continue. So the idea when Googling for information about which examination we could take is not only about the fact of counting on an international exam or certificate, but also knowing what this examination will certify. How will this certificate be useful to me? In the case of the type of certificates that the ministry was asking for example, you could start by the general English examinations because they certify the English level. A2, B1, B2, C1, if you can reach the level, or C2 even. So this is about the examinations. It is not only about Googling and reading. Okay, the bullets es un examen y puedo dar el bullet, pero es para cierto tipo, cierto sector. Si yo no trabajo en Business English, de repente el examen tal o cual, no es que no me vaya a servir, pero no es que vaya muy acorde a mi campo de trabajo específicamente. Si trabajo en el nivel de primaria y quiero tener un examen que certifique mi calidad docente, mi metodología, mi experiencia, podría optar por el TKT Young Learners, que es específico para ese nivel, que me certifica como docente de ese nivel. Los generales y los que les estaban pidiendo para postular a becas y a distintos cursos que se estuvieron ofreciendo, inclusive por intermedio del British Council, son los exámenes de nivel. Certify your B1 level, B2 level. I remember that for the last course the British Council was offering, they were asking for the B2 level and 4 skills. So it was a complete examination, probably something like the B2 first or one of the Anglia examinations at the B2 level. So this is basically the information about the international examinations. And I want to mention one more time. I am not paid by Cambridge, nor by Anglia, nor by College Board or anyone. It is just the information that we wanted to share because many teachers were asking about the different possibilities or different alternatives than the Cambridge examinations. Cambridge examinations are not the most difficult. They are not the boogeyman. You know the boogeyman? El cuco. It's just about practicing because in the end, remember that practice makes perfect. So there is something very important that I would like to mention as to finish with this presentation. Give me a minute, please. One more time. Oshin, I have just read your name. So nice to see you here. Then I hope to see you face to face through the camera. When the pandemic finishes, I will visit you in Arequipa, Oshin. Let's see. Okay. To close this webinar, where in the first part, my idea was to focus on our soft skills, and this is about the perfect moment for feeling empowered and empowering the rest of our colleagues. In the second part, I wanted to share some information about different international examinations. I think some people here is asking about the Michigan ones. Yes. When you're asking your different questions, I will be able to give you information. The Michigans are the ECCE and the ECPE. Al final, Cambridge compró, ahora es Cambridge, Michigan. Bueno, en realidad mantienen sus formatos, más American, más British en spelling, pero bueno, y ahí lo respondemos seguramente en el set de preguntas. To finish with this presentation, my dear colleagues, some general ideas that I would like you to keep in mind because this is definitely important. Remember that we are currently preparing students for jobs and technologies and illnesses that don't yet exist in order to solve problems that we don't even know are problems or illnesses yet. Probably about a couple of years ago, we would have never imagined something like the COVID or coronavirus. Now it is real. And it came to change our lives completely. And now we're talking about the new style of life. I would like you also to listen to this because as I was mentioning along the presentation, in Peru, and also in different other countries, but I am focusing on ours, Peru. Being a teacher is not well, if we are teachers, people do not think we have the best jobs, even when we know that we have the very best jobs. I perfectly understand that there are difficulties that there are difficult moments nowadays, as some teachers were mentioning. There are these situations of having to struggle with how to teach to my students if they do not count on technology, or if maybe there is a certain town in the country where there is no electricity along the day. So there are different things that we have to keep in mind. But for this reason, it is that, as I also mentioned, we are not just teaching the people who will be employable in the future. We are teaching human beings. And that's why, more than 21st century skills or soft skills and blah blah skills, I would talk about the human skills. An anecdote, and I always mention this, and if you are there, sorry, my training is bad, I have to mention this. In the case of schools, I know that your students must have their cameras on. In the case of teaching for institutes or universities, students have the faculty of turning the camera on or off. However, remember yourselves when you are in front of a black screen, seeing nobody in front of you. I also know that sometimes the internet connection is so terrible that if we turn on the camera, then the connection gets bad. But at least to say hello to the teacher, we can turn the camera on. Because I will insist on this about our human skills, and I want to see a person in front of me, or someone smiling in front of me, or someone showing me a face like, I don't understand, or something, in order to continue communicating. Here you can see the photograph of a forest, and this forest is showing two different paths. One of the paths looks green, the other one looks brown. There's no grass. And I chose this poem to almost finish with the presentation for a very special reason. I would like you to listen, and then I will mention you my reason for having chosen this. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay. In leaves no step had trodden black, how I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. This is a poem that belongs to Mr. Robert Frost, and it's titled The Road Not Taken. And I chose it remembering one of the presentations, a dear friend, a dear Brazilian friend called Vinicius Novri. Vini, if you're out there. The point is that we chose one of the roads not so taken. We chose to be teachers in a country where teachers are considered simple teachers. It depends on us to feel empowered and to make things change. Perú, Apusonghue, Yaktamana, Waiyuyay Kichu, Yachakuni, muchas kaita, muchas ani, power, lapa paraquita, causachum, Perú. Disculpen el quechua. Ahí vamos aprendiendo. Thank you very much for your time, for having been here. And I cordially invite you to give a like to the Facebook fan page. We offer this bases.blt o la fanpage personal que es alicialara.elt o alicialara.elt, como me encuentren. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Alicia. Congratulations, class for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, congratulations one more time. It was an amazing webinar. Thank you so much. And everything you mentioned is so important for us, especially in this time that we're living nowadays, because most of the time, as you mentioned before, we are super teachers. Yes. And we appreciate that. So, well, here I have some questions for you. Let me see here, because you actually talk about many international exams. The teachers are so curious about it. But first, I would like you can answer this question. So, I mean, for me, it's so important to know too, how can we as teachers get along with technology issues without getting stressful?
How can we as teachers get along with technology issues? Oh, okay. I must confess that in my very personal life, I am one of the most impatient people. Trust me. When I had a boyfriend, I didn't used to be that patient, even in my personal life with my brother. And that's why my family, my relatives, were always making jokes to me saying, how on earth is it possible that you're a teacher if you're very impatient? And I said, okay, that's my personal life, but my job is my job and I love it. The very first thing that we have to do in order to get along with technology is the very first step, that is try to learn about technology. These days, I have learned about 3 different apps that I didn't know about. And thanks to some friends in the masters that I am taking, I just learned about them. They offered, for example, maybe some of you already used it, Genially for presentations. And then there is another app that is called Wakelet for saving our information. So I know that sometimes technology makes us feel stressed, especially in the context of Peru, en donde nos conectamos y se nos va porque prendemos la cámara. Yeah, I know it is crazy. The only thing is our attitude. Our attitude will make things better. As I was mentioning, my laptop just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I confess having cried a couple of times because I said I cannot work. However, the thing is that we should be able to continue learning. That's why we are called lifelong learners as teachers. So step by step, try to learn a bit more about different applications. These days, many teachers are recording videos and using different apps on their cell phones. The thing is about trying to learn that don't get desperate about learning everything or the most difficult thing. Just going step by step. And keep in mind that the internet in here is not that good. So it's just about saying, please, okay, be patient, this will work. Step-by-step learning is one of the best things in order to get along with technology issues.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. Also, by the way, you mentioned about some international exams that teachers can take. Um, Also, you mentioned about ELASH, Anglio, Cambridge. Most of the teacher ask ask you about which one has more importance here in Peru. Oh, by the way, I also consider that, but actually depend on each institute, right? Yes, I think this is so important. By the way, also, maybe you can give us more details about the Delta and Celta exams because we know the first, the TKT has one, two, a YLE and CLIL.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the next step is Delta and Celta, or they are so different.
As I was mentioning, well, the first step, for example, in the case of the most of teachers, should be to start certifying their English level. They should start with the B1, then go for the B2, and if possible, the C1. As teachers, we should be certifying at least the C1 level. If you can get the C2, excellent. After having certified your level, you can go to certify your methodology, your teaching experience with examinations like the TKT. In the case of the Celta and Delta, they are not examinations, they are complete courses. Depending on the schedule you choose, it may be 1 month, but in 1 month you should be studying from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon every day, or 3 months. Well, it depends on the institution that offers those courses. Here in Lima, for example, International House offers those courses. Oh, there's a very good and well-known colleague, Timothy Kanashiro, is offering now the Delta course, the
The
Delta
Delta
Module 1.
course.
The Delta
Uh-huh.
also has different modules.
That is
But
true.
those are like the highest levels in terms of the English level and also your teaching experience.
Yeah. And what
Mhm.
about the international exams, as you mentioned, Cambridge, the Michigan now Michigan and Cambridge, the Anglo, there is another one, track test. They have the same valid.
Yes. Um, Even when they are different or they are promoted by different universities, I have not mentioned, for example, another examination that Trinity, the
Training.
Trinity examinations. Creo que en estos días están por volver, estuvieron hace un tiempo atrás, el año pasado no estaban todavía, estaban creo que por volver a presentar, o bueno, a ofrecer estos exámenes aquí. Em, la validez de todos es la misma. Todos certifican el nivel B1 si voy por el nivel B1, B2 si voy por un nivel mayor, C1 o C2, que es el máximo que puedo alcanzar en cuanto al nivel. Pero todos valen, todos valen. Lo que mencionaba, por ejemplo, con respecto a esta otra opción que es la de College Board, que es el ELASH, en ese caso, por ejemplo, certifica 3 skills. Y si, por ejemplo, mi empleador o el lugar al cual yo voy a postular me solicita un examen internacional de nivel B2 que certifique 4 skills, ese examen no me serviría allí. Pero obviamente para postular a otros trabajos u otros lugares, sí, tal vez. Todo depende en realidad de qué es lo que te pidan en tu centro de trabajo o a donde vayas a postular. En este caso, como mencionaba, para las becas que estuvo ofreciendo el British Council este verano y el año pasado, solicitaban que los profesores presenten un examen que certifique 4 skills y que sea del nivel B2.
C2,
Ujú,
correcto. Ujú.
ujú.
Sí, lo recuerdo, también formé parte de ello.
Claro.
Muy buena experiencia.
Ujú.
Ujú. Muy bien, muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Les pido por favor que se quede con nosotros hasta el final.
Ujú, claro, claro.
Listo. Vamos a pasar con la siguiente sección.
Muchísimas gracias, Alicia. Realmente ha estado muy interesante. Gracias por haber aceptado nuestra invitación. Gracias por esa bondad de haber compartido el día de hoy tu tiempo tan valioso y todos tus conocimientos con la comunidad de English Teachers in Perú. Están muchos interesados también en poder ver la manera después de conectarse contigo porque tal vez les quedan algunas dudas. Alicia es la directora general de Basic Languages and Training y ya vamos a ver, de repente vamos a volver a pasar por ahí el link de su fanpage para que lo puedan tener, están consultando por ello. Querida Alicia, te pido que nos acompañes un ratito más para que nos podamos tomar la foto final. Bien,
Unas
continuamos.
palabritas, si te puedo robar,
Por
¿o
supuesto.
sigue?
Sí, claro que sí.
Para robarte un minuto, a ver, con cronómetro, un minutito. En primer lugar, Marielita, quería agradecerte como siempre por la confianza una vez más, ahora ya en castellano, en nuestra lengua materna. Definitivamente estoy muy agradecida de corazón por la oportunidad de poder compartir un poquito, porque parece mentira, pero es tanto lo que uno puede querer y desear compartir con colegas que a veces el tiempo aparentemente extenso queda corto. Hay muchísimo por compartir y esa es una de las cosas que en estos últimos años me hace sentir muy contenta. Veo que muchos teachers comparten información de sus webinars, seminarios, workshops, talleres y cursos y eso es lo que justamente va a hacer que nos empoderemos. Repito, recalco, por enésima vez, este es el momento, este contexto, a pesar de la dificultad de lo que estamos viviendo, es el momento para sentirnos empoderados y para hacer notar el real valor que tenemos como docentes y educadores en general. Muy agradecida estoy, Mariela, me pongo un poco tartamuda de la emoción y definitivamente es una loable labor la que realizas porque como todos ustedes saben, profesores, todo esto sale del corazón, no tiene nada que ver con bolsillos ni nada, todo sale de corazón, es simplemente el afán de muchos otros colegas que también quieren compartir y tenemos el gusto de tener como contacto en común a Miss Mariela que nos permite ser la ventana para poder llegar a todos ustedes. Muchas gracias, Marielita.
Ay, gracias a ti, Alicia. Muchísimas gracias por el día de hoy. Ha estado muy excelente el webinar. Estoy segura que vamos a volver a estar juntas en algo más porque los proyectos siempre están ahí y la comunidad también espera mucho de ti por lo mucho que sabes y la experticia que tienes en el área. Bien, continuamos entonces en este momento con la presentación para el día de mañana. El día de mañana nos acompaña Yako Higashi. Él tiene estudios ciencias de la comunicación y educación orientada a la enseñanza de lenguas extranjeras. Además ha realizado una especialización en metodología de la enseñanza en la Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú y tiene amplia experiencia como maestro, entrenador de equipos y líder en el Perú y en el extranjero. Vamos a resumir un poquito. El tema que nos va a tener el día de mañana, sábado, a las 6 de la tarde. Están todos cordialmente invitados. También están invitados docentes o sus colegas que tengan de todas las áreas. El webinar va a ser esta vez en español, dado el contenido que se va a compartir. Va a ser titulado El ADN del maestro. ¿De qué sirve haber estudiado tanto si no sabemos liderar un aula? Vamos a verlo ahora más completo en el video que nos ha enviado Yako, en donde nos invita a poder participar el día de mañana. Después de esto viene el exit ticket, así que todos muy atentos, por favor. Bien, vamos a iniciar entonces con el video. Iniciamos un segundito. Un segundito. Bien, recuerden por favor que para el exit ticket tenemos lo siguiente, va a estar disponible los 45 minutos que habíamos mencionado ya y además de ello, les pedimos por favor que dentro de ese tiempo que estamos indicando, puedan ustedes llenarlo y es personal. Vamos a dejarlo también en los comentarios, en la parte de abajo. Vamos a dejarlo fijado en los comentarios de este webinar en unos minutitos más. Ahora sí vemos el video. Gracias.
Hola, mi nombre es Yako Higashi. Soy de Lima, Perú, pero vivo en Guayaquil, Ecuador hace algunos años. Soy maestro, capacitador de docentes y empresario. Durante mucho tiempo he comprendido que para ser maestro se requiere mucho más que tener conocimiento de la materia o habilidades metodológicas. ¿De qué sirve haber estudiado tanto si no sabemos liderar un aula? ¿De qué sirve alcanzar puestos de liderazgo si no sabemos cómo tratar con personas? ¿De qué sirve estar actualizado con lo último en tendencias educativas si no sabemos aplicarlas sabiamente en nuestros estudiantes? La enseñanza tiene poder. Sin embargo, para que este poder pueda tener un impacto positivo o negativo en la vida de los estudiantes, debemos saber cómo manejarlas. Este taller tiene como objetivo reinventar al docente como un héroe para los alumnos y aprovechar el poder influido por él mismo para lograr propósitos académicos en el corto, mediano y largo plazo. Repasaremos en detalle cada tipo de poder que el profesor maneja dentro del aula e intentaremos redirigir nuestra metodología al uso adecuado de esta habilidad. Gracias a Mariela Condorena y a todos los docentes de Perú por la invitación. Será un placer compartir con ustedes. Nos vemos el sábado 29 a las 6 de la tarde por el canal de English Teachers in Peru de Facebook. Hasta pronto. Chao, chao.
Bien, ya hemos podido visualizar la invitación con mucha buena vibra de Yaco y el día de mañana los esperamos a todos. Ahora sí, me ayuda a Angelita, por favor, a dar el link del exit ticket.
Por supuesto que sí, ya está colocado aquí también, profesores. Por favor, listos con sus lápices, respondan todas las preguntas. No se olviden además que nosotros estamos enviándoles un pequeño regalito a todos los docentes que están completando su exit ticket y que además están respondiendo a todas las preguntas. No se olviden además también que para aquellos profesores que están siguiendo la serie de webinars va a haber un certificado al final. Así que no se olviden, por favor, de estar copiándolo ya. Va a estar copiado también en la página de Facebook, ahí durante 45 minutos. No se olviden, por favor. Y muchísimas gracias por haber estado con nosotros esta noche. Y muchas gracias también, Miss Alicia, por habernos acompañado el día de hoy.
Así es. Recuerden, por favor, que es importante que registren su asistencia y resuelvan las preguntas que están en el exit ticket que pueden ver a continuación. Para que al culminar el ciclo de webinars puedan tener la constancia de participación que se les va a otorgar por ello. Recuerden que también una vez que ustedes han llenado, se les pide información como su correo electrónico, la cual nos sirve para poderles enviar los materiales que con mucha amabilidad los ponentes nos dan para poder compartir con ustedes, ¿no? De las ponencias que han tenido en el webinar respectivo, y también nosotros agregamos materiales educativos digitales para poder compartir con ustedes. Les pedimos también que por favor cuando escriban el correo tengan mucho cuidado con ello porque hemos tenido por ahí una que otra incidencia con el tema de los correos porque no han estado bien escritos, ¿no? Entonces, cualquier cosa, cualquier comunicación a través de nuestra página, nuestro Facebook page, en mensajes nos pueden escribir. Listo. Bien, entonces concluimos una vez más. Gracias a todos por su atención y terminamos con la foto grupal. Querida Alicia, encendemos todas las cámaras. Muchísimas gracias, gracias una vez más, Alicia, por tu presencia el día de hoy. A todo el equipo de administradores que me acompaña, somos un equipo que de alguna manera nos esforzamos para hacer realidad estos webinars y contamos con el apoyo de personas tan nobles, capacitadores tan nobles como Alicia el día de hoy, que comparten con todos nosotros. Bien, entonces nos vamos despidiendo. Miss Ángela Salazar, Miss Tabita Anaya, Miss Lilia Espinosa, parte del equipo, Miss Oshin, parte del equipo también, Miss Maite Flores, Miss Yuli Millones, parte del equipo de English Teachers, Mr. Kevin Laura de la Cruz, hoy día ha estado a cargo de esta emisión, Miss Daisy, que está ahí, Miss Jocelyn también, aunque no la podemos ver, profesor José, que siempre está a cargo también de la transmisión, José Ortega. Bien, nos despedimos, bye bye a todos, que tengan una buena noche, nos vemos mañana para el webinar respectivo con Yaco y Gashi.